Hydropower's impact on Guyana's competitiveness highlighted as the President addresses a National Economic Forum. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro to visit Guyana this month-end. The Hugo Chavez Center for Rehabilitation and Reintegration opens, and 70 Cuban-trained Guyanese doctors graduate. These and other stories in this week's edition of The Diary, the Government Information Agency program that provides a recap of the highlights of the country's president for the week August 10 to 16. I'm your host, Fabian Klaus. Now for the details. The lost opportunity the country would have suffered as a result of the Amila Falls hydropower project debacle was highlighted as the Guyanese head of state joined stakeholders for a National Economic Forum on August 14. The forum built on the platform established by previously held summits and provides the avenue for participants to brainstorm how to promote and remove obstacles to Guyana's competitiveness. Cheap energy was seen as a key pillar, but the debacle facing the Amila Falls hydropower project and the length of time it will take for a hydro project to start, there is doubt that any accomplishments can be made at least within a decade. President Donna Ramotar, who is chairman of the National Competitiveness Council, is buying none of the arguments advanced by the political opposition for withholding support.
I have heard some say that they did not have enough information. I myself am accountable because when I came into office, I thought that this was probably the most important project to advance our economy of our country. And I invested a lot of my time to ensuring that everyone was on board with this project. And today when I hear that I don't agree with the financial architecture, I don't know what that means because it was never raised. I don't know how it is being raised now when it's the 18th of July. When this matter was debated in the National Assembly, not one MP from ACU spoke or raised any issue on this matter.
Site Global, a major developer for the project, walked away on August 10, citing a lack of unified consensus, and more particularly, the reduction of the debt ceiling guarantee from $130 billion to $50 billion. Coupled with fears about the anti-money laundering legislation facing a similar fate, President Ramotar believes there is an important lesson to be learned.
We have seen with the Amila project that the world is not waiting on us. Those who think that the world is waiting on us to deal with all of our issues, this is a lesson that the world is not waiting on us. That we have to get our act together. We must get our act together.
Still determined to bring cheap energy to Guyana, the head of state continues to plead for the full support of all stakeholders to complete the hydro project.
This is a very serious blow, but we cannot afford not to have cheap energy. And I hope that this setback will be used as an opportunity and as a lesson for everyone to see that the importance that we have, and when we have the next venture, that we will have 100% support of our country behind cheap energy for Guyana's economy.
The National Economic Forum saw participation from different stakeholders in 10 thematic areas. They include agro-processing, aquaculture, aviation, energy, human resources and manpower planning, infrastructure, land use, manufacturing and standards, non-Caribbean trade and tourism. The Hugo Chavez Center for Rehabilitation and Reintegration at Onveract on the west coast of Berbice was commissioned on August 10. With the head of state reaffirming the commitment to strengthen diplomatic ties with the Venezuelan government. Guyana's first ever rehabilitation and reintegration center for the homeless is a symbol of the long-standing mutually beneficial relationship between Guyana and the Bolivarian Republic, Venezuela. President Donna Ramotar and Venezuelan ambassador to Guyana, Rene Margarita Arrieta Diaz, unveiled the dedication plaque to the facility that will house 100 males and 80 females.
We are extremely grateful
Estamos supremamente agradecidos
to the late President Hugo
al
Chavez
fallecido presidente Hugo Chávez
and the government and people of
y
Venezuela
al gobierno y pueblo de Venezuela
for helping us to construct
para ayudarnos a construir
this facility that we
estas
have here.
instalaciones.
Conceptualized in 2010, the center was constructed with a $2 million fund from the Venezuelan government and local funding from the Ghana government to the tune of $100 million. It comes with recreational, medical, kitchen, conference room, training and dining facilities, and land spacing for agricultural cultivation. With the goal of rehabilitating and reintegrating the occupants, the center was endorsed and approved by the late Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez and named after him in his honor.
This will be a living
Sería
memory. This will be a living memory of Hugo Chavez.
del señor Hugo Chávez.
Let me also say that this demonstrates
Y esto demuestra
that
que
President
el
Chavez
presidente Chávez
was not only concerned
no se preocupaba solamente
about the poor and the disadvantaged
por los pobres y los menos favorecidos
in Venezuela,
de Venezuela,
but he demonstrates his
sino
own
también
regional
demuestra
and international spirit.
su
Officials say the occupants should begin taking up residence by the end of August, after a careful selection process that will include an examination of the person's mental state. At the commissioning ceremony, the head of state and First Lady Deolachmi, Venezuelan ambassador to Guyana, and Minister of Human Services and Social Security Jennifer Webster were given a full tour of the center's various departments.
We're going to look at sewing, and we also want to do like computer and want to have some counseling because I think that's important. So some of that, yeah. And of course agriculture, because I'd like them to be self-sufficient. And our males will be trained by the maintenance superintendent to help to maintain, fix the lines, plumbing, and carpentry and so on. There's a workshop there at the back with tools and so on. So they'll be able to learn carpentry and joinery and so on. So we have to have some skills trainers too.
Guyana and Venezuela share a long-standing relationship based on mutual respect and understanding. You are watching The Diary, more still ahead.
With the Amaila Falls Hydropower project, all consumers will benefit from cheap and reliable electricity. In fact, reduction in consumer tariffs will be at least 20% in 2017 and considerably more in the years ahead. This project will save residential, commercial and industrial entities approximately $3.5 billion over a period of 20 years. At present, it costs about 25 cents per kilowatt hour to generate electricity using heavy fuel oil and about 30 to 35 cents per kilowatt hour using diesel. With Amaila, Guyana will save a dramatic 20 to 25% on its fuel importation bill, or about $90 million. Investors' confidence in Guyana will increase, and the manufacturing and services sector will be significantly boosted. In the climate change arena, Guyana has already taken on a leadership role with its low-carbon development strategy, and with this Amaila project, the country could also become a leader globally for renewable power. This project will add 6 percentage points to real GDP growth during the construction phase alone. The total public debt to Guyana for this project is zero. Cheap energy is vital to the industrialization of Guyana. Thousands of jobs would be created due to industrialization. After 20 years, the hydropower facility will be 100% owned by Guyanese, and it is expected to last 100 years.
The Amaila Falls Hydropower Project is the medium and long-term strategy for the country's electricity sector. It is where cheap and reliable energy will be derived for consumers both at the domestic and household levels. Guyana could become a nation taking the lead globally for renewable power and build investor confidence. Financial closure with the Inter-American Development Bank is within reach, and preparatory works on the long stretch of road to the Amaila Falls site have gone a far way. The support of all stakeholders is critical to the success of this important project.
Guyana needs the Amalia Falls Hydropower project because all consumers will benefit from cheap and reliable electricity. Consumers will save approximately $3.5 billion over a period of 20 years. Ghana will save $90 million on fuel importation, and investors' confidence in Guyana will increase. More jobs will be available. All Guyanese need to come on board now. Reduction in consumer tariffs will be at least 20%.
Incumbent Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, successor to the late President Hugo Chavez, is scheduled to visit Guyana by the end of August. Maduro will visit for the first time since becoming president of the Bolivarian Republic. As a former Venezuelan vice president under Chavez's 14-year rule, Maduro visited Guyana on several occasions. After taking the oath of office as Venezuela's interim president hours after Chavez's widely publicized state funeral, Maduro had described his counterpart, President Donald Ramotar, as an extraordinary man of the Caribbean. 70 Cuban-trained Guyanese doctors graduated on August 10, owing to the historic partnership between the governments of Guyana and Cuba that focuses on improving the country's human resource capacity in certain fields. The young doctors, after returning from Cuba, completed the second phase as interns at various health institutions across the country, including the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation and the Leonora, Suddy, West Demerara, New Amsterdam, and Maikoni hospitals. They are now equipped to be stationed at these facilities to provide the much-needed health services to citizens. President Ramotar was on hand congratulating the graduates in the company of Minister of Health Dr. Berry Ramsaran and outgoing Cuban ambassador to Guyana Raul Marrero and members of the Cuban Medical Brigade.
If you look around the world, if you cast your eyes at the various countries in the world, and you see those countries that are developing the fastest, and those that have already developed to some extent, you will find one common factor, that they have a highly educated population and a highly educated workforce.
About 200 students recently returned from Cuba after completing their training there and will soon commence their internship.
I look forward to you not only to cure the sick, which is essentially what you train to do, but also to prevent people from getting sick. And therefore you have another role to play as an educator, to teach people, to help them to live healthy lives.
The opportunity for Guyanese to pursue scholarships in Cuba was made possible through a bilateral agreement between former President Barajagdio and Cuban leader Fidel Castro that also catered for technical support in the construction of 4 diagnostic and treatment centers and a state-of-the-art eye care facility at Port Morant. The facilities are being manned by members of the Cuban Medical Brigade, who will make way for the cadre of trained Guyanese professionals who will be occupying the health institutions across the country upon their return.
All the people of Guyana are important, and all of them deserve the best type of service. And therefore, you should not feel that being posted to a remote area is the worst thing that can happen to you, but to see yourselves as having an opportunity to deliver services to those people who probably need it the most.
The graduation of the 70 Cuban-trained doctors is regarded a quantum leap in the country's capacity to deliver healthcare services. And as Guyana and Cuba marked a high point in diplomatic relations, Cuban ambassador to Guyana, Raul Marrero, ended his 4-year tenure. He paid a farewell courtesy call on the Guyanese head of state on August 15, satisfied with his tour of duties and optimistic about the future relations between the two countries. He extended gratitude to the Guyanese people and government for facilitating his stay and assured that the Cuban government will continue to be a close ally. Ambassador Marrero will be succeeded by a new ambassador who will be assigned to Guyana shortly. Guyana and Cuba share a 40-year relationship that has been built on a solid foundation of dynamic political dialogue, warm mutual respect, and productive cooperation. In October last year, President Ramotar met incumbent Cuban President Raul Castro for the first time when he visited Cuba and discussed bilateral programs of cooperation. The visit ended with agreements on the exemption of visa requirements for holders of diplomatic, official, and service passports, and cooperation in the areas of sports and health. With common positions at the multilateral level and potential for enhanced trade cooperation at the bilateral level, a new Malaysian diplomat is looking to build on the linkages between the two countries. Dato Sudha Devi Vasudevan presented her letters of credence to President Donald Ramotar on August 16 as the new Malaysian High Commissioner to Guyana. The two countries share common positions on political, economic, and social issues at various international forums like the United Nations, the Commonwealth, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, and the Non-Aligned Movement. Bilaterally, Guyana has opened the door to Malaysian investors, and while trade relations between the two have been relatively small, the Malaysian government believes that the prospects for expansion are positive.
During my tenure as High Commissioner, I look forward to be an effective link between both countries and am committed to build on our bilateral relations. It is my goal to explore and diversify collaboration in various other possible sectors ranging from tourism, information and communication technology, education, and construction.
The brainstorming of cooperation in various areas is an endeavor President Ramotar told the Malaysian High Commissioner that he is willing to explore, given the opportunity which South-South cooperation provides.
The government of Guyana welcomes Malaysia's commitment to the intensification of our relations through the Malaysian Technical Cooperation Program, as well as at the conclusion of trade and economic agreements, which would provide the opportunity for our private sectors to explore means through which they can contribute to the economic development of our countries.
Malaysia is located in Southeast Asia, occupying a landmass of 329,847 square kilometers. The record 20 passes at the Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate CSEC exams this year was enough to convince President Donald Ramotar about Guyana being listed among the region's top-performing nations for another year. Zamina Rashid from the Anna Regina Secondary School on the Essequibo Coast, Region 2, is Guyana's CXC top student with 18 grade 1s and 2 grade 2s. Her peer Yogita Prasad copped 18 grade 1s.
Take the opportunity to express my deepest congratulations to those who have done so well at the examinations that have just come out. They have made all Guyana proud. I am extremely proud of them. And as I've said just now, I think that although the results are not out as yet, I'm willing to bet that they have made us once again the top in the Caribbean.
Last year, Guyana topped the region with 4 of the 8 CXC awards. Sarah Hack from Abrams Zool on the Essequibo Coast gained 16 grade 1s, earning her the region's top spot. This year's CXC results revealed 231 candidates securing grade 1 passes in 8 or more subjects, while at the Cape level, Guyana recorded an overall pass rate of 86.6%.
Our investment in education is beginning to pay dividends to us once again, and we begin to see that we have the capacity and the brain power as any other country in the world. It is now for us to harness that and to put it towards the development of our country.
A large portion of the country's annual budget goes towards the education sector, targeting improvements in the physical infrastructure and human resource capacities. Well, that's all in this week's edition of The Diary for the period August 10 to 16. The highlights before we go. Hydropower's impact on Guyana's competitiveness highlighted as the president addresses a national economic forum. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro to visit Guyana this month end. The Hugo Chavez Center for Rehabilitation and Reintegration opens, and 70 Cuban-trained Guyanese doctors graduate. Do join us again for the next week when we'll bring you more of the diary. I'm your host, Fabian Krause. Thanks for joining us, and please do have a safe and a pleasant rest of the week.